the 1/3 of the land area of the world, and nearly around the 1/4 of the world economy, and also that 15% of the world trade. And also that for the SDN, they produce that more than 1/4 production for the account for the whole world. And also it's quite important for the COVID-19. You see that right now that more than 1/3 of the cases in the BRICS, and the death is nearly 27% of the world total. And the active cases right now is also the more than 10% of the world total. Here is about the COVID-19, the statistical data from the 1.3 acres. It's the day before yesterday. And you can see that India, Brazil, Russia, South Africa, there's many cases in these countries. So it's quite a serious challenge for the BRICS. And for the STI, in terms of the science, technology, innovation, that you see that the annual R&D investment of BRICS countries have improved the more than 15% of the global total, and the export volume of the high-tech products is more than 1/4 of the global total, and the 1/4 of the global total for the published for the scientific journals. Okay, that means that the efficiency of the SDI in BRICS is better, since we only that investment is around about 15%, and the output is about more than 25% for the total. So maybe you could say that the BRICS is good and the world will not be bad. And the BRICS catches the cold, the world will be having a favor. And if the BRICS will end the COVID-19, or we have the measures to finish the COVID-19, and the world will end COVID-19. And also, I want to say that the BRICS people are happy. At least near half of the people in the world are happy. And also for the science, technology, and innovation affairs, with the rapid development of the STI in BRICS, then the global STI will surely flourish. And the second of my presentation, I want to give some of the BRICS STI competitive report. You see that we have published nearly 4 reports about STI competitives in the science and technology. The first is a yellow book published in China, and the Alexander Sokolov is also one of the editors to contribute this book. And then the Springer translated and published in English for the coming next year in 2018. And then this year we published the 3rd books about the STI of the BRICS. And this time that the Professor Alexander Solkova is the Deputy Editor-in-Chief right now. So that we have a very close the cooperation with the SSE, HSE University, and I believe that the extended group has contributed a lot, and their work is very excellent. And maybe in the coming months that we will publish English version of the books about the BRICS STI competitiveness reports 2020. And this time that the academician, the Vladimir Bonder, he is the vice president of the Russia Academy of Sciences, is the senior honorary advisor of the editorial board. And also Professor Alexander Sokolova is also the active editor-in-chief about that. And I want to introduce in detail about this book, since it's already finished the draft and is during the published press to be edited and published. And this is the contents about this book. And there are some of the general reports and the special reports about the member of the BRICS countries, and also the thematic reports. Okay. This year that we mainly focus on the agriculture, since we consider that agriculture is very important for us, especially during the recent days. And I want to introduce about the 4 main points from this report. One is the evaluation index system, and then the evaluation about the BRICS, and then we have another methodology to try to evaluate the BRICS. We call it the BRICS Comprehensive Innovation Index. And then the science and technology priority area in the BRICS Plus. We have established the evaluation index system about the BRICS. We have, there are 5, the second level index. We call it the innovation foundation and the innovation input and output and the innovation environment and also innovation sustainability. And for the third level that we have the indicators that count about the 33 indicators. I already said the whole presentation to every people during this conference. So I just try to give the very brief introduction about the presentation that you could find from the file I just sent to you. And this is the other indicators. And here's the data resource that the World Bank, UNESCO, ISO, and so on. And we got some of the results based on this the index system. Okay, that we just compare with the G20 countries. So in this way that we could compare with the main countries in the world, I believe. You see that from here, that we can say that about the overall scores and the changes of the BRICS innovation from the 2001 and to the year before last year. Since that the update data is only that we could find only from the 2018. And it's a little bit satisfied that for the scores, we all increased. But for some of the country, that unfortunately that the ranking has been changed. Some of the increased and some that decreased. But anyway, that I believe that during the long period, the long term, that sometimes that have the wave, it's okay. Here's the radar chart of the changes in ranking of the BRICS. About the second level indicators. And this about the Russia's. And this is the India. This is China. Here's South Africa. And compared based on the evaluation that we find out that some of the member of the BRICS country, they have their own the strong, good, or moderate the innovative competitiveness, and some that are weak compared with the other members of the BRICS. For example, for Brazil, that we find out this is quite strong. Brazil is in the innovation sustainability. And China is quite got the very satisfied result about that, okay? And we also tried to use other the competitive reports. Right now that we try to collect the 5 main reports from the world. 2 come from the China, and 3 from the international world. And we combine them just like the index of the NASDAQ, and we just to give the weight and then to calculate together of the 5 the index result. Why is that the global competitiveness report that's the World Economic Forum published, and then is the Connect WIPO and ISSEK published. And the third is a national innovation competitive, that's published by the Chinese Academy of the Social Sciences. That's just Mr. Yuan's come from the Chinese Academy of the Social. No, not this one. The national, the National Innovation Index just coming from the Academy of the Science and Technology for Development. That's Mr. Yuan's come from the academy. And the National Innovation Competitive just comes from the Chinese Academy of the Social Sciences. I also as the one of the editors-in-chief about this report. And the Bloomberg also published an innovation index. We believe that all these 5 reports, they have their own advantages, and also that we try to use all the results together and try to give some the ideas or views for the ranking of the BRICS countries in the world's major innovation evaluation reports, okay? And here are some of the results about that. Oh, sorry, this is in Chinese, but anyway, you could find this is Brazil, that's the Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And the overall level of the comprehensive innovation competitiveness of the BRICS countries have shown an upward trend, you see, and also the average, with an average increase of the 11.3 points, quite satisfies, despite the influence for some countries in some of the year, you see here. And also we want to predict or forecast something will happen in the coming years. So we try to calculate about the innovative index and the ranking. And they will be changed from the 2019, okay, about the 2020, 2021, and 2025. That's only the forecast. Who knows what the real results will be? Maybe during the COVID-19 or some other very serious situation or event happened, then that will be changed. Or maybe that next year after if it will be end of the COVID-19 and everything will develop very fast. And we also got the result that the CII, the BRICS Comprehensive Innovation Index CII of the 5 countries will continue to increase by 2013. And China will be entered the top 3 by 2013 in G20. And also that for our BRICS, generally speaking, the CII will be improved by about 1.5% increase annually, okay? And we also expected that the India's CII will be improved significantly, with the rate of the improvement from the 2025 to 2030, likely to exceed that of the China, will be the fastest in our BRICS countries. And the next is about the science and technology priority area in the BRICS Plus. I just gave some the statistic data about that. The gross expenditure on research and development JERT, and also the FTE, the full-time equivalent, the number of researchers, and the JERT as the percentage of the GDP. And for the BRICS Plus, that we have some other countries, okay? I should mention here that all this part are contributed by the Professor Alexander Sokolev's group. And for the publications, you see, our BRICS produced in total that 33.8% of the global volume, okay? And compared with in 2000, it's only about around 10%. And during this time, for the European Union, the 28 countries in the total contributed only about the 29.5%. The portion of the publications of the European Union declared during this century. You see, in the 2000 years, they occupied about 33.4%. And the fast growth of the publication activities in BRICS is also the Chinese publications activities, okay? And for the Chinese authors, from the 2000 to the 2018, that we grew that 11 times. And among the BRICS Plus countries, the leader by the number of the publications is in 2018 is Iran. And the highest growth rate is shown by the Indonesia. That's the 43.8 times.
Excuse me, Sinli, 2 minutes left, okay?
Okay.
Okay, good.
Yeah, I will try to just show you, okay, the structure of the BRICS Plus. And also the 14 priority area about the science and technology, okay? Okay, some the suggestions. I just want to suggest that we need the 8 rights. One is to build the mechanisms right. Second is choose the field right. And third is determine the topic project right. And the fourth is organize the team right. And the 5 is about the manage the process right. And finally, we should promote the result right. I just support suggests that we should do this age rise for the science technology cooperation during our BRICS. And the proposal is about the next year's the reports. Maybe next year that we want to focus on the, oh, sorry. Some of the same that the aerospace research and applications, ICT and artificial intelligence, and the medical and the health, prevention and the control of the COVID-19, and the early warning of emergency, disaster, and the disaster prevention, reduction, and this kind of things. And we want to organize all the many the authors from all the BRICS countries to join us. So welcome to participate, and we working together and we share together. Okay, that's it. Obrigado, successful, and thanks, and 谢谢. Okay.
Okay. 谢谢. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much for your very rich presentation. I hope we can ask questions in the end of our meeting. So our next presentation will be made by Mlungisi Seli from National Advisory Council on Innovation, NACI, from the Republic of South Africa. Mlungisi, please, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Yes. No, thank you very much, Alexander and Collins. Can you hear me, Alexander?
Yes, very well.
Thank you. Can I ask Sili to stop sharing so that I can share my presentation?
Okay. Shall I do it first? Oh, yeah. Stop the share. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Alex. Can you see my presentation at least?
Yes, now just make it full screen, please. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. No, thank you. I'm glad that the previous speakers have done me a huge favor by providing the analysis, the macroeconomic analysis of BRICS and sharing the comparative dimension. So I, not that I had prepared any such analysis, but it helps to contextualize the work that we are doing as members of BRICS. Because last year, Alexandra, we had shared with colleagues the results of the foresight that we had completed. We're almost done with the results last year. So I thought we should reflect on the lessons learned as we journeyed from the completion and the submission of the report to the decision makers and the subsequent steps that are currently underway, and what is it that we can learn. And I'm hopeful that other colleagues would also be able to share their own experiences, because to me, it's really the transition or the process to move from the foresight exercise process to decision making. What is it that we can draw? Because it's not always given that countries or the decision makers will simply accept and embrace foresight results. And it also depends on the nature of political power that is evolving. Of course, if one reflects on the evolving policy context in our country, the SDGs remain the organizing framework in terms of shaping the global agenda. At the national level, our key drivers are informed by the desire to transform our economy into a strong, diversified, and inclusive economy. And we also seek to develop the capabilities of South Africans, as well as making sure that we have a capable and a developmental state. And then, because these are 2030 long-term drivers that have been identified and included in the National Development Plan. In terms of implementing that 2030 vision, there are 7 priorities that are currently being implemented by the current administration. So we typically refer to it as a medium-term strategic framework. And then, of course, the National Special Development Framework plays an important role in the way that development is implemented in South Africa. And then last year, we were able as a country to finalize a new white paper on science, technology, and innovation. And it has these goals that are demonstrated to ensure a well-coordinated system, which is also inclusive, an enabling, innovation-enabling environment, and then, of course, a commitment to address human capabilities and promote research that is not only world-class, but also relevant and responsive, as well as developing the M&E and addressing the funding challenges. When we were mandated to do the Foresight, the intention was to use the results of the Foresight to develop the implementation plan, which is called the decadal plan. And that process is currently underway. And it will benefit from the Foresight exercise that we were grateful to HSE for collaboration, as well as the review that we have recently concluded of the 2 previous systems frameworks. And then, of course, we also reviewed the institutional landscape, and the panel that conducted that review has since submitted the report to Minister. So these inputs are feeding into the new 10-year innovation plan. Most particularly, our interest in this presentation is Foresight. These are 7 priorities that I alluded to, which the national government is currently pursuing. And then, of course, as a cross-cutting enabler, science and innovation is expected to contribute across. Of course, the last one, we want a better Africa and a better world. And we know currently what's happening between China and United States and what is happening in United States as we speak. But our main challenge is around priority 2 and 3. This is really about making sure that most people, they have jobs. We have the economy that's growing. We've seen the indicators presented before us where most indicators are in the negative. And of course, COVID has worsened the situation that we were confronted with. This 5-year plan, colleagues, when it was constructed using the 2018 data, you could see that in terms of the key indicators, we're really not doing as much as, and of course, the situation is probably worse now, given the COVID. In fact, if you look at the unemployment rate, we have lost about 2 million jobs between March and the end of last month. So the numbers would be different. The target that we wanted to achieve in 2030 was 5.4 GDP growth. But the estimation is that our economy is probably going to contract by between 6 or 8% or even 11%, depending on whose contraction. And then, of course, the issue around inequality, which is part of the challenge facing BRICS countries, as well as poverty. Those indicators, they will continue to as part of addressing some of the challenges. We're also having what we call a reimagined industrial strategy. And innovation is a key element or a key driver of this new industrial strategy, whose intention is really to help grow the economy as well as address the structural challenges of poverty, inequality, and unemployment. And then, of course, there was a presentation earlier on about SMMEs and their role. And for us, they are important in as much as we can be able to ensure that the economy is inclusive. I'm not going to spend much time on this slide. It simply summarizes the journey we have traveled since 1994 as a country in an effort to transform the STI from serving the minority into a system that's serving the interest of all. Particularly of worth noting, in 2019, Foresight exercise was one of the key interventions made. I'll skip this because, you know, it's really about setting the policy. So now the 2019 white paper on science and technology, which provided the anchor for the Foresight, is seeking to create an enabling South Africa's sustainable and inclusive development in the face of rapid technological change and innovation. And some of the concerns, or what we seek to do, is to make sure that we attend to climate change challenges and issues of sustainability. I've spoken about human resource challenges and issues related to governance of the system, and then, of course, the fact that our economy it remains stagnant and non-inclusive. This is just an example to show progress related to STI investment. The previous presentation was showing, for instance, how we fare compared to other countries, and we do have the latest figure on GDP, on growth expenditure on R&D as a percentage of GDP. It stands at 0.83. So that information can be updated. However, as you can see, that there is a decline in certain elements of our investment. The major challenge remains that of business investment, which has been on a persistent decline. And this is something that remains a serious challenge because you know, we all know that you need business to invest in R&D, given its strong role as a performer. Now, this is a summary results of our Foresight exercise, colleagues, just to show colleagues who may not be familiar that it produced about 9 what we call domains, including circular economy. But we also, Alexandra, try to respond to societal challenges, as you could see, issues related to health, to water security, to nutrition, to education, as well as general issues that are asking questions about the implications of these transitions and transformations on society in general. And then, of course, now what we may need to be thinking about, because this happened prior to COVID, but we now know that COVID has worsened the economic, the environmental, as well as the social reproduction crises. And of course, we may need to rethink about the implications of COVID on some of the assumptions that were made as we were working through the Foresight. And then, of course, the various trusts associated with the Foresight. The process that Alexandra and the colleagues, you may be aware now, is the next step of trying to take these recommendations into concrete policy options and some further analysis that we have been asked by the policy makers to do, so that we can be able to even arrive at much more comfortable situations in terms of setting targets and indicators related to the developmental challenges that we have experienced, like job creation and so forth. This is an example of one of the entities in South Africa, the CSIR, that in our view, they utilized the results of our foresight in developing their own strategy going forward. And the consequence of that analysis and the planning that they did was the sorts of priorities that CSIR is now pursuing. And this is somehow pleasing that you could see that the entities that we are having have begun to embrace and assimilate the results of our foresight in their own progress. But also the panel that the minister had constituted to review the institutional landscape, they also reflected on our foresight exercise, and then of course, build their own analysis into it, which then led to these sorts of four what they call societal grand challenges or missions, which they have provided or recommended to the minister. But now the process is really about taking the inputs from the foresight exercise, the institutional landscape, the review that I've spoken about, into this evolving structure of the new 10-year innovation plan. The chapter 2 of the new, this is a structure of the framework of the new plan. The chapter 2 will then be a product of what would have emerged primarily from the foresight, from the strategic reviews that we have provided, and then the rest of the areas which can also be absorbed from other areas. Now, of course, as part of the thinking, this is how we have thought about what would need to be done in order to identify key strategic priorities that must constitute the new plan. Now, colleagues, having shared with you a short journey from 2019, when we launched the foresight exercise, to where we are, because really it's a process where government is trying to internalize and to translate the results of foresight into policy making. This is my own lessons that I'm drawing. They're not yet finalized, but I thought it's, because as I'm getting involved in the process, at least to me, it seems to suggest that if one were to think about the process or journey from foresight exercise to policy, that policy making, that it's got to be seen as a continuous process. Because if not, then you are likely to have a foresight exercise results that are produced, but that are not able to make progress into, or a leapfrog into the policy making. But for that to happen, some level of influence is required from those who might have been involved in the foresight exercise to be able to negotiate, to persuade the people who have to utilize, amongst others, the foresight exercise and other sources of information and data that they may have, so that at least we can then see the fruits of having conducted a foresight exercise in a context such as ours, which is less dictatorial or highly centralized, but which is so democratic and relies on persuasion and networking. But at the same time, I think it's important that one should avoid entrapment in a sense that it's very difficult for some people to let go of the old ideas or things that they would have been implementing or that they are quite comfortable with, and to embrace new and sometimes uncomfortable directions that may be emerging. And then, of course, that would lead to a process of prioritization, which, in my view, I'm saying that process has to happen within a particular historical context, because what may happen in a prioritization exercise that may happen in one country may not necessarily be successful if transported to another country. So you've got to consider the historical context of that particular country and how that it could shape and influence the manner in which you prioritize going forward. And then, of course, there is no doubt that the role of data analytics, big data analytics and institutional capacity is vitally important if we were to have a very effective and successful foresight exercise that's shaping the future. And then, of course, the issue around stakeholder engagement, especially the involvement of civil society or the non-traditional R&D sectors, remains a challenge, as we are all recognizing the role of STI in addressing the needs of humanity. So I thought, one should share what is beginning to emerge from that journey of translating the results from our foresight exercise into a new 10-year innovation plan, and what are some of the preliminary lessons that one could identify as we are deeply involved in the process, but also as the process continue, which I'm hopeful that the HSC team would be part of. We may refine the thinking around lessons learned and new lessons may be drawn. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Okay, thank you so much. It was excellent presentation, and I know this process from inside to a large extent, yeah. And I can tell you, when people like Mungisi are engaged in foresight process from the policy making side, it's always very important. It's my view, when because we have many cases when they just give money to make a foresight study, and that's it. Nothing happens after that. But it's extremely important to use foresight studies for policy making from the very beginning, being included in the process from the very beginning. Okay, thank you so much. I appreciate it very much. Probably we'll leave our questions to the end of this session. So our next presentation will be made by Konstantin Vishnevsky from HSE University. Konstantin, the floor is yours. Please go
ahead. Добрый день, уважаемые коллеги.
Very good day, dear colleagues. My name is Konstantin Vishnevsky, and I'd like to dwell in my presentation on the development of digital tech. Inter alia, in the Russian Federation and abroad, internationally, the current status and the prospects for future. Currently, the humanity is faced with a constellation of global challenges. And this is a topic that has been high on the agenda for many years among analysts and professionals. But if we compare the current status with that of 1 year ago, the global challenges were discussed by professionals only, and the rank and file people knew very little about that, and they underestimated the global challenges and the technologies to respond to these challenges. However, the pandemic of COVID-19 has overhauled our mindsets and has become an upheaval. And over the past several months, the world has shifted to the digital track. Children now study and learn remotely. Very many people work remotely, and the Zoom application has become a window into the greater world. BRICS countries are no exception. And the agenda that is typical for the rest of the world is also relevant for BRICS countries. So the education going digital and separate economic sectors going digital, smart transport and the deployment of new technology and the development of COVID tech as a separate area is indicative. And now we have been using the digital tech to handle the COVID pandemic. So COVID tech has been all the rage now in all the BRICS countries, and among the questions that have come to the fore are some issues like industrial inequality that very few people thought about a year ago, but currently the digital inequality and disparity is something that all the governments are trying to resolve, including the BRICS countries' governments. So the digital inequality is now quite acute, and we should grapple with it and get to grips with that, so that us human beings could normally exist amid the pandemic. The digital agenda in the BRICS countries is now in concurrence with the global priorities. At large, the BRICS countries lag slightly behind the leaders in terms of development and implementation of the digital tech. If you look at the leading ratings, we can note that ours are firm positions. We are in the first third of countries. Unfortunately, we don't always have the lead. We're not in top 5 or top 10. So anyway, that is because BRICS was slow in developing the digital technology, lagging 2, 3, or 4 years behind the leaders like the United States and others. Besides, and at the same time, the BRICS countries have the benefit of the overtaking development. We're catching up, and we're quite agile and proactive, and we have been borrowing a lot. And over the past years, BRICS countries have been able to make considerable headway. We have absorbed the principles and values that the leaders have. First of all, the long-term nature of the digital agenda. The trailblazers started back in 2010. Then another principle is continuity and continuous nature, as the priorities follow one another in a sequential way. Later on, programs on separate sectors and technologies are developed, like over the past years. The AI has been the buzzword for everybody. As other BRICS countries, the Russian Federation has been on track of the digitalization, starting with 2017, when we launched the national program Digital Economy, which may be regarded as the starting point. Later, we saw its active development. In 2018, the national project of the digital economy was unveiled. Afterwards, leading companies were picked up to become the actors of the development, and later on, we set forth the national goals and targets till 2030 in digital transformation. Now, currently, all the economic actors and agents have been taken on board, and we have a number of federal projects. We have been developing the regulation and oversight and HR support, infrastructure, and digital technology. Different sectors of the economy have been going digital, like agriculture, or energy, or industry. And we have been able to single out more than 10 lines of digital technology that will determine further development. Well, currently, main companies, mostly state-owned, are in charge of its development. For example, AI is the responsibility of Sber, that used to be called Sberbank several months ago. Later, also the Russian railways, Rosatom and Rostelecom and Rostec are active participants.
Развитие высокотехнологичных направлений цифровых технологий является
The high-tech development key priorities is a global technology leadership and the search for specific technology niches for the Russian developments. So in the context of these priorities, the Higher School of Economics conducts research on the current prospects, and we can divide this into three parts. That is mapping of digital technologies, analysis of publications and patents, for example. Then it is the identification of promising technologies, and then the monitoring of global ideas and Russia's place here. One of the tools for such analysis is a system of AI analysis of big data. We've mentioned this a lot in the previous days of our conference, so only basic information here, that is about 400 million documents. It includes patents and scientific publications, as well as market analytics, vacancies, and a number of other scenarios allowing to look at various aspects of these issues, that is fundamental research, supply and demand analysis, and specific developments. As for scientific publications, comparing Russia and the world, you can see that in general, the share of Russia in digital technologies area doesn't exceed 5%. So the most successful positions of Russia are in quantum technologies and blockchain. Among leaders, we can see China, US, Japan, Germany, and Great Britain. Despite this, we can say that in terms of scientific publication that serves an approximation of fundamental research level, Russia lags behind the world, but still in the recent years we see a positive dynamic. So in the last 2-3 years, it exceeded the average worldwide dynamics. So here it is owing to national programs and national digital economy program, when a significant number of resources has been earmarked to develop digital technologies. As for state-of-the-art technologies and patents, Russia's share doesn't exceed 1% of the global level, but at the same time, Russia succeeded most in the area of state-of-the-art advanced technologies. As for the AI, it is not patented as heavily. However, over the last several years, the AI is the area that attracts Russian companies. So they started to acquire patents in Russia and abroad. And this was the result of the recently launched federal project on the AI and the strategy adopted to develop artificial intelligence. So once it became one of the digital key priorities, we see a greater number of research in this area. From the point of view of mapping of digital technologies, we currently highlight areas where Russia lags behind of the world, and we also identify areas where Russia goes shoulder to shoulder with other countries. And this is the analysis of digital technologies that is going to be part of the foundation to assess prospects of such technologies and to further decide whether this or that area should be supported and in what way. So here we pay special attention to jokers or weak signals that are technologies that are being actively developed, but they are not quite compliant with global trends. So here we need to look at them separately and identify whether they do not comply with global trends because we support developments that are not compatible, or maybe these are projects that need to be improved, but they would still have advantages compared to the global trends. Maybe they are just linked to global trends, but in different ways. So in the end of the day, we do this to reduce risks and not to concentrate resources on trends that are not that promising. So the methodologies combined, that is an intellectual big data analysis, and on the other hand, these includes discussions with the expert society. So here we try to strike a balance between these two approaches, and thus we'll be able to identify areas that need this.
Невозможно без проводников цифровизации, то есть
Of
ведущих
course, we cannot do this without excellence centers. Here we analyze global leaders, and at the same time, we look at each technology through Russian excellence centers. Here you can see, for example, the Center for the AI, VR, and you can see that most developments are concentrated in universities, and most startups are established by graduates of such universities. Another block of work is the monitoring of global technological development trends, such as, for example, AI's sub-trends, technological trends, and we structure them and differentiate and find key trends. We identify the timeline, the market assessment, and then we look at the publications and patents and how technologies behave so that we can identify specifically pinpoint the specific trends. Upon the outcomes of this analysis, we position Russian developments amid global trends. So here we identify the areas that can become potential leaders. So on the one hand, we identify the big wins, quick wins, and then we also look at long-term strategic priorities. And we hope that this would become a foundation for strategic decisions in the development of digital technologies. Here we have life cycle scheme. We've looked at the evolution of certain developments, and then we came up with a certain ideas on what technologies are to be developed in the first place and what are the technologies to be developed later on. So all of this is a food for thought for our decisions. So here we see the difference, see how we can think whether we invest into emerged technologies that are already developed, or we rather focus our attention on those technologies that are just emerging and that can become successful in the next 2 or 3 years. So I cannot cover all of the aspects of digital technologies development in Russia, so I just want to announce the report that is going to be published quite soon. It's called Digital Technologies in the Russian Economy. It has both Russian and English versions, and hopefully you'll be able to familiarize yourself with this report. Thank you.
Konstantin, thank you very much for your very rich presentation. We can ask questions later again. And now we have our last presentation for today, which will be made by Marcelo Paiva and Marcio de Miranda Santos from the Center for Strategic Studies and Management from Brazil. So Marcio, I don't know who is what will be making this presentation. Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Alexander. I will ask Marcelo, my colleague from CGE, to share the presentation. But before we start the presentation itself, I'd like to thank you very much, Alexander, for putting together this conference in the virtual format. And I thank you very much, not only you, but Elena, Olga, and Natalia for the whole assistance they provided to us to come to this point where we are now. Let me also say that I'm absolutely happy to see our colleagues, participating in this, virtual conference. It's an amazing, amazing moment for all of us to keep in touch, no matter what happens in the world. So thank you very much, Alexander. Please give also my best regards to Leonid Gorgbeck for allowing this to happen as well. We're missing you all, and I hope that next year we're going to meet, presentially. Thank you. So what we are actually going to show you is a part of the job being done by CGE, the Center for Strategic Studies and Management, Science, Technology, and Innovation in Brazil, that maintains a number of observatories in the labor market, bioeconomy, sustainable cities, and other issues. But what we are going to show
excuse me, Marcio, we don't hear. We lost the signal, I guess.
Yes, I think we lost it.
Are you listening?
Not yet. It's a very bad signal, I guess. Maybe you will switch off your video, and it might be.
Yes, I just talked to him right now on WhatsApp, and I think he's gonna get out and come back to see if it works.
Marcelo, maybe you will continue, no?
Okay. Let's
Are you
see.
listening me now?
Oh, yes, now
Yes.
it's okay. Now it's okay, yes.
Yeah, it happens all the time. You go in, you go out. But, let's just finish by saying that this is a result of a recent study that we did, Alexander, in order to position Brazil in terms of the science being done in the world in the last 6 years. So my colleague Marcelo is going to continue by showing the results that we obtained recently in this regard. Next, Marcelo.
Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'd like to recognize all the efforts that were dedicated to make this conference happen. My name is Marcelo Paiva. I'm a member of the Science, Technology, and Innovation Observatory. And today I'm going to present you an overview of the Brazilian science landscape in the last 6 years. When we decided to do that study, we selected the Web of Science basis because of its relevance as a platform gathering information about science around the world. And we selected the years to analysis from 2015 to 2020 up to September. One of the first questions we asked ourselves was how many articles Brazil was involved during this period. And we found out that out of 10,813 articles produced in the global landscape, Brazil was involved in 345 articles that represents 3.24% of global production in 2019. When you take a deeper look at the Brazilian growth of the science production compared 2019 to 2015, we found out that we had a bigger expansion when you compare to the global one. So Brazil expanded its production around 31%, and the global one, the global landscape expanded around 24%. Therefore, Brazil occupies the 13th position in the global production ranking. That has on its top the China, overcome United States in 2019 in the Web of Science basis. And then when we consider the main research areas of the articles in terms of the number of articles about the Brazilian landscape, we have engineer occupying the first position, followed by chemistry occupying the second position, and then agriculture occupying the third position when it comes to the number of articles in that period in Web of Science. It's important to say that even though agriculture is in our third position in terms of the number of the articles, this field is not even in the top 10 ranking of the global landscape, showing our efforts in publicated articles in agriculture here in Brazil. We also take as an indicator the relative participation of Brazilian scientific production. So even though in general, we were responsible for 3.24% of the global production in 2019, there are some fields that we have even a greater participation. As you can see in parasitology, we were involved in at least 15% of the global articles in that period, followed by tropical medicine and dentistry and agriculture and so on. So when it comes to analyze the international collaboration between the Brazilian production, we found out that Brazil was really stable in doing international collaborations. We dedicate around 32% of our whole publications to do with international collaborations. That number was in 2019 around 32.8%. And when we take a deeper look at the ranking with the first and the second biggest partners that Brazil have in the international collaboration, we can see the United States of America occupies the first position, followed by England, Spain, and France. When we take a deeper look here in the articles that were published in international collaboration, we found out that 11% of the production was made at least with a Brazilian researcher, with at least one researcher from the BRICS countries. Inside the BRICS country, our first partner in terms of the number of the collaboration was China. But then after doing that quantitative approach, we decided to make a more qualitative perspective. So we gathered all the information about the up 320,000 articles in Brazil and recreate this network analysis that it's important to point out that network is a semantical one. So we gathered all the articles inside this network in order to take a great view about the flaws of the Brazilian science landscape. So each dot here or node, it's an article involving Brazilian participation. And there are lots of adds between those nodes. That is the connection between their similarity of the semantics. So we could see here, even in an easier way, what was the local challenges and the global challenges that Brazil was involving during its research. So each color here represents one issue that we are putting efforts in our publication during the last 6 years. But in order to see it even clearer and with a more specific analysis, we applied one method that is called the supernode, that can be also called as superdot. So we get other articles that was inside one cluster here, like the green one, and transform it in one big supernode over here to identify even better what was the topics and the hot topics that Brazil was involving during these last 6 years. So doing that method, we could identify that we have a great amount of articles about biodiversity, nanoparticles, water treatment, neurological diseases, and public health, so on. As we developed these supernodes, we could also click on every single supernode in order to see its clouds. So we can see in their clouds the most relevant object of studies that was dedicated in the Brazilian landscape in that field. So here there is the cloud of biodiversity, and you can see that we have a lot of research running on about climate change, about ecosystems, diversity, and so on. After doing that methods about the supernode, we decided to do one analysis focus on the timeline. So we get all the articles and transform it into the keywords that were more used during the period. So now each dot here represents a keyword that was used and that was used as more relevant during the last 6 years. So we could see every timeline of the Brazilian landscape science, each field. So here we can see the field of biodiversity, and we have a lots of explosion of the uses of the keywords during this period in the timeline analysis, showing that in 2019, we had a great amount of articles that were talking about computer simulation, wildfires, and large-scale restoration inside as hot topics about biodiversity. Another tool that we developed under the Science, Technology, and Innovation Observatory was related to the Brazilian Science Map that was intended to make a profile about its multidisciplinarity. So now at each node here is not longer a keyword, but it is an area, a field, research field that was involved at least in one publication with Brazilian participation. So over here, each color represents a great field. We have in the purple here, the field of biomedicine and health science. In the yellow here, we have the field of the social sciences. And in the blue here, we have the field of technological research. So we could follow it year by year, and we recognize that we have a lot of expansion about the Brazilian production in each field of here. Also in biomedicine and technology and social science and so on, year by year. One of the good things that we can do with the science map is filtering it for something that we are concerned about. So we did that example. We filtered all the 320 articles that there was a Brazilian participation, and we focused on the nanotechnology field. So we were trying to see which areas were involving in the Brazilian landscape that was talking about the nanotechnology issues. So we could see that there is a great concentration over here in our publication that talks about nanotechnology in the field of chemistry, material science, engineer, but it's also important to stress out that in the more recent years, we have a great amount of articles talking about nanotechnology, expanding in the field of biomedicine, in the health science. So we can see here a great amount of articles that talks about that specific field of nanotechnology in biochemistry and molecular biology, in pharmacology and pharmacy, and so on. So this is a great tool that we can track the science, looking forward to the combination of the areas. After that, to do that presentation, we filtered all the publications that were Brazilian involved, up to 320,000 articles, with just the articles that had the BRICS collaboration. So over here, we were trying to see which are the leading areas that Brazil and at least one researcher from the BRICS country were involved during these last 6 years. So first thing that we could identify is that we have a strong collaboration in physics, engineer, material science, chemistry, astronomy, and astrophysics here, as it was mentioned here. And also we could see not only the strong collaborations, but also the combination of two areas through their journal that can show us that not only we have collaboration in that field, but we are putting together and convergence between different fields. That is the case about a great amount of articles in the BRICS collaboration that were putting together engineer and telecommunications, something that we should be aware of in the following years. Nonetheless, we applied.
Excuse me, Marcel. Did you push the button on the translation, because they didn't hear translation that you are. Elena, if you explain it in the correct way. Just a moment. Lena.
Marcela, could you please push the button with language and choose English?
I'm just trying. I'm gonna start.
The button below with the globe.
Globe?
Yes.
English. Okay, so I put in Russia, yes?
And you choose English.
Yes, I choose English. So now it's Russian, yes?
Okay.
Is it working?
Could you please speak and we will check.
Okay, so
please go on.
Okay, I'm gonna share my screen. gonna share my screen again, just 1 second.
Yes.
So can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can
Yes,
see.
but yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna
Great.
back a little in other slides here. So as I was talking, we decided to do that that overview about the Brazilian science using the landscape of the publication related to 224,000 articles. So to do that, we decided to recreate the timeline sequence that we could see each node here representing one keyword that had an explosion during the last years. So we could follow the patterns of the science related to the Brazilian science. So over here, we are looking to the field of biodiversity, and we could see that we have a great amount of articles 2019 that were talking about computer simulation, also about wildfires, and also about large-scale restoration. So that technique could help us to understand what are the flaws of science. And another technique that we use it to do the tracking of the science was using the, instead of the network related to the keyword, we were looking to the areas of the knowledge that were involved to the Brazilian science. So over here, we have different colors. Every color here represents one great field. And we could identify that in the last 6 years, we had a great expansion of the Brazilian field in the different fields, like in the biomedicine and social science. One good thing that you can do with the science map is filtering it with something that you're concerned about. So over here, we could see that we are trying to track in the nanotechnology field of the Brazilian science. And we could see which areas were involved. In order to make the understanding outpoint of about what were the leading areas that we're talking about nanotechnology in the last recent years. So we could see that we have a concentration on that field on the material science and chemistry. And also, but more important, we could identify that we had a great expansion about that field of nanotechnology in the biomedicine field. Then we understand that we should do that technique using the BRICS collaboration publications. So we could identify here that we had a lot of publications about the leading strong collaboration between the BRICS collaboration in physics, engineering, material science, chemistry, science technology, astronomy, mathematics, But more important than that is not just look to the strong publications, but also to see the combination of the areas over here. So we could see that there is a great sign of the science collaboration about the engineer and the telecommunications field, leading the publications about the BRICS collaboration. So it's a sign that we should be aware of in the next following years. So something important that we would like to say is that we also applied the Brazilian publications, but just with the BRICS collaboration in the timeline. So over here, we could identify that we have a great amount of articles that were talking about the iron oxide nanoparticles. And also we could identify that we have a lot of publications about the BRICS collaboration in the energy harvesting. Also in the dark energy in 2017, there is a peak of publication in the BRICS collaboration about that topic. We also have a great collaboration about oncology in the BRICS collaboration with at least one Brazilian researcher involved in 2018. And in more recent years, we have a great collaboration in biomass in 2019, followed, but as it was mentioned today here, the publications around Internet of Things in 2019. And we have a great collaboration too in 2020, but related to the neural network. Yes, and I think that's it. This is our team. We have here the coordination by Adriana Badaró, and our supervisor present here today is Mr. Márcio Miranda. Thank you all, and please text us and send us an email if you'd like to keep in touch.
Okay, thank you very much, Marcio. Thank you, Marcela, for your very rich presentation. Yeah,
Alexandra, may I provide some final comments? Just
sure, please go ahead.
Well, thank you very much, Marcelo, for your presentation. But let me just say a couple of remarks. And one of them that I like, and I saw this in most of the presentations today, is the critical importance of social sciences. And we did internally a quite comprehensive analysis on the evolution of social sciences in our country. And I think this is going to be extremely important for the global as well, to pay attention together with the evolution or more technical aspects, the evolution of social science in the world. This is one of extremely important point that was highlighted by many of you during this session. And the second, as you saw in the case of Brazil, the importance of multilateralism, international cooperation. And in the case of Brazil, as you saw, 1/3 of our scientific production is actually made through international collaboration. And I think this is going to go up during the course of the next years. So just two remarks that for our case is extremely important: social sciences and international collaboration. So thank you again, Alexander, for the opportunity.
Okay, thank you very much. I guess we have some questions to presenters. You can see some of them in the chat, so you can answer right now. And I ask everybody to ask questions if you have any to all our presenters right now. Please, Marcela, you are asked by Maxim. You can find it in the chat.
Yes, I'm looking to the question right now.
Yeah,
I could see that Maxim asked us about the comprehensive analysis. Yes, it is possible to do the Brazilian-Russia collaboration too, actually in the timeline too. So it's something that we are looking forward to do. And please be more than welcome to talk to us if you'd like to collaborate it, because we have great ideas of techniques that we are applying right now. We just showed you some of them. We have a great amount of others that we are currently testing and seeing how it works. So please, it will be amazing to exchange information about that.
So I want to say that it would be interesting to see to maybe focus analysis on those publications where Russia and Brazil are collaborating, and not include into analysis mega collaboration articles, because we need to see where Russia and Brazil play important role in publication. And I think that, as Marcio said, we need to pay more attention to social and humanities sciences, because collaboration mainly focused in physics, medical sciences, engineering, but social sciences and humanities are missed, and we need to find opportunities to increase Russia-Brazil collaboration in social sciences and humanities and detect these missed areas, I see.
Yes, that would be amazing to do so. We can also try to isolate different fields, as I showed you, like with the supernode, that we can see specific topic, and we can try to see just the social science one, and also the other fields that are leading about the Russia and Brazil, to see what are the stronger points that we have in common. So it would be amazing to do it then. There is another question about U1 like here. It's possible that it's moved on paper. Yes, we currently, you are talking about patents. Yes, currently we have a team here in the Science Technology Observatory trying to do the connection, the specific connection between the papers and the science production with the patents and the patent production. So to do that, we are trying to see different bases and trying to do an analysis of the short and medium period analysis to identify some patterns. So the same thing that we could do with the network, with the whole Brazilian production of the science in Web of Science, we could try to do the same thing with the Brazilian participation, even the timeline that I showed you, and also the maps, the science maps with the areas of the codes. It could be the IPC, the code related to the patent, to see what can be recognized as a good sign for the future when it comes to collaboration. So it would be amazing to do that too, not only with the network analysis, but also with the timeline sequence that I just mentioned.
Okay, other questions or comments? If no questions, maybe I will wrap up a little bit. Yeah. First of all, I would like to thank all our presenters. I guess the presentation was very rich. And I must say that during the last few years, we arranged this session about BRICS countries. And this one was the richest, I guess, among all everything we had in previous years. And I see how rich are our activities in all BRICS states. Unfortunately, we didn't have our Indian presenters except Rotary. But anyway, we see that in every state we have very strong analysis in the field of science and technology on the one hand. On the other hand, we have strong activities related to future studies, foresight, science technology foresight in particular. And I guess we could arrange now something jointly. One of the initiatives which was presented by our colleague from China, Zhao Xinli, was this book about innovation in BRICS countries. We can use the next edition to make it very rich in analysis for all BRICS member states. On the other hand, I would like to inform you that we won a big competition in Russia very recently, and we started a new project this month actually. It's called World Class Research Center. It was a It was a competition for identifying in Russia world-class research centers, and we were the only one in the field of social sciences. And our key area will be devoted to study human beings, and so we several speakers mentioned, and Marcio in particular, and myself here, we mentioned somehow social challenges, how they are, how important they are for foresight and for science technology studies. So we would like to maybe to use this BRICS network also to accelerate these studies, and maybe to make some interesting issues to be analyzed jointly with our friends from BRICS member states. Okay, at this stage, maybe I must finish. It's very late in our for our Asian friends, very early maybe for our Brazilian friends. So anyway, I hope this session was extremely interesting, and I wish all of you good health and good every success in your work and in our joint work. And I hope we can arrange the similar event next year, and you will be kindly invited to participate in this event as well. So thank you very much, and it was a very good, I guess, very informative session. I wish you all the best. Thank you, and bye-bye.
Okay, thank you, Alexander.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. See you tomorrow.
Yes. By the way, one more I did not mention. Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Jonathan. You are correct. I invite all of you to visit us tomorrow. We have 2 sessions. The first one will be about clusters. What are practices of clusters? How they react to the situation and to the crisis, and so it might be also interesting. It will start at noon by Moscow time, and another session will be extremely interesting, and I invite all of you to be there. It will be a special workshop, being human and anticipation in the 21st century. It will be about future studies, how they are developing, and the key issues related to the human beings. And foresight related to human beings, and how human beings are changing new technologies. So it must be of great interest for all of you, I guess. So I invite all of you to attend these sessions. Okay, thank you very much once again. Thank you, Jonathan, for reminding me. It was very good.
My pleasure, my friend.
Yeah, okay.
I wish I was there to just elbow you and say.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you very much. Hi, Attila.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
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 Bye-bye, everybody.